Today's day is very important for all of us because it is a very inspiring day, and I compliment and congratulate the Honorable Chairman of Marmagoa Port Trust and his entire team here. We are proud of you, sir, because you have done absolutely wonderful justice to the life and work of the Bhratratna Dr Ambedkar as compared to the entire machinery of my state government and its departments. Your organization is a matter of pride for our republic. Besides, we have got 2000 years of glorious history of maritime trade of Goa. And more important in that, this particular function of 126th birth anniversary of Bhratratna Dr Ambedkar is a tribute to heritage of Buddhism in Goa. 7 to 8 kilometers from this place where this function is being held, we have the birthplace of Acharya Dharmananda Kosambi, one of the greatest scholars of Buddhism in the world. And father of none other than the famous Marxist historian Damodar Dharmanand Kosambi, in whose name Government of Goa, on my recommendation, instituted the famous popular D.D. Kosambi Memorial Lecture Series in 2007 to commemorate his birth centenary. Suna Paranta is the name given to this entire territory by the disciple of Gautam Buddha, Punna. In Sutta Nipata, there is a reference to this land as land of gold. The entire land is land of gold, Suna Paranta, golden Goa. I am very sure that your port trust is trying to create a golden age in port and harbour trade and development to make India a trade superpower in 21st century. The topic of my talk is patriotic vision and relevance of Bhratratna Dr. Ambedkar in 21st century, and it is based on 3 important articles I wrote because nobody was writing anything on Bhratratna Dr. Ambedkar. I was the first person in Goa, first teacher in Goa, first university academician in Goa who downloaded all the 22 volumes of work of Dr. Ambedkar from the website of Ministry of External Affairs, made one single volume and sent it to hundreds of teachers in Goa who may not have read about Bhratratna Dr. Ambedkar and his 16,000 pages of work. Many foreign economists and also Indian economists like Nobel laureate Amartya Sen have said that there was no economist in India to match an economist like Dr. Ambedkar. So my first and foremost contribution to his life and work that I am going to present before you, a short introduction to his patriotic spirit. The heart of the Constitution is the fundamental rights given to every citizen and the directive principles to the executive and legislature for governance of the country. The idea behind them is to ensure certain basic rights to the citizens so that they are not at the mercy of shifting opinions of the legislators. The chapter on fundamental rights ensures the dignity of man as a human being and emphasizes the creation of casteless, classless and homogeneous society. Please remember, these are cornerstone of the Indian Constitution. Now let me speak of the political and economic thoughts of Dr. Ambedkar, the architect of our Constitution, who believed in a democratic system of government, and power to the people had been a major concern for him. I have been fighting with various powers that be for decentralization of the powers as envisioned by the maker of the Constitution, the architect of the Constitution, Dr. Ambedkar, Ambedkar under 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, because the most important facet of our democracy is decentralization, giving power to the people. That was the article of faith in the life of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. And what he said? He said this. He said that democracy rests on four premises, where the citizen remains at the center. Today when I talked to your chairman, I was very happy to know that entire India from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and Gujarat to Assam is represented in MPT. We should be proud of it. Because this unity of India was central to the vision and the dreams of Babasaheb Ambedkar. A classless society, a casteless society, a society which respects creativity and talent. And if Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar were to be born in a country of opportunity like United States of America, he would have become a president of that country. This is the reality, because after all, he did his economics PhD from Columbia University. And you will not believe this, he is more respected in American intelligentsia and academics than perhaps many of our own universities in India. What he said? He said that democracy rests on four premises, where the citizens remains at the center. The first premise is the individual is an end in itself. The second, the individual has certain inalienable rights which must be guaranteed to him by the Constitution. The third, the individual shall not be required to relinquish any of his constitutional rights as a price of any privilege. And fourth, the state shall not delegate power to private persons to govern others. I turn my attention to the most fascinating aspect of his life. In his monumental published work and speeches, one can see the vision of future which encompasses the very essence of everything that is good in our country and enshrined so meticulously in our noble constitution. What is my religion? You answer this. What is my religion here on this public platform? What is religion of all the public servants here on this platform? Our religion is Constitution of India on public platform. That is what Babasaheb Ambedkar said. Whoever you may be in your private life, keep that religion at home. Here, as public servants, we have only one religion to follow, sir, that is Constitution of India. And management, professional and activist, Mr. Tel Tumbade and his colleague Mr. Hadke have compiled and made available the entire work, the writings and speeches of Dr. Ambedkar, 233 files on Google Drive, which anyone can download and study for free. It is wrong to criticize and attack Babasaheb Ambedkar's ideas without going through this stupendous archaic work. Attacking his opponents, critics and enemies with baseless emotional arguments was not Babasaheb's style. While struggling to meet both the ends against great odds, he had spent more than 10 years in pursuit of higher education in USA and UK. He proved his passion for knowledge and mettle for research in both Columbia University and London School of Economics. Digital age of 21st century worships intellectuals and researchers like him. Today, I study, we follow the works of academicians like Professor Sukhdev Thorat, economists like Dr. Narendra Jadhav and academicians like Professor Bhalchandra Mungekar. They are all followers of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. While struggling to meet his ends, he went to those countries and you know what he accomplished. He proved his passion for knowledge and mettle for research. And today, if we see the very preamble of Indian Constitution, we the people, it tells what Babasaheb stood for, a republic of united, classless, casteless, enlightened people. All Indian citizens without labels. He knew that except for a few like-minded people from upper caste, none would come forward for the liberation and empowerment of the Dalits. So after he returned to India from 1924, we see him working tirelessly and relentlessly to unite, educate and empower the Dalits. I have worked here at the grassroots with the Dalits, with the scheduled caste, with the scheduled tribals. Even today I am fighting with thousands of Dhangars and Gauris of Goa who have not been included in the scheduled tribe list of India. We are fighting, we are organizing them because we are inspired by his message and his vision. He knew that. So we come to see by building a bridge between Dalits and tenets of Buddhism in most peaceful and exemplary manner, Baba Saheb Ambedkar laid down the foundation of modern, progressive, united India. Post-Buddhist, Baba Saheb Ambedkar prepared millions of his followers for the modern age, a better, educated, empowered future. Because the simple message of Gautam Buddha is a profound message for future to come. What Buddha said? Attadipo bhav. You get self-enlightened, you become your own guide. This is a very profound thought, very scientific thought, very visionary thought. And Baba Sahib told his millions of followers the same thing. Become your own lamp of light, the light of knowledge. All other labels and barriers were created by dominant classes to divide and rule over people. Post-Muslim invasion, Hindu society had become a leaderless and rudderless ship caught in the weeds of superstitions. Baba Sahib Ambedkar proved himself as a true liberator of Hindu society by kick-starting a new critical process in 20th century. He shook the very foundations of the deeply entrenched feudal hierarchy. He correctly dismissed the romantic Hinduism of Mahatma Gandhi. Modern genomic research shows the scheduled castes, most of the Dalit population of India is the very founders, the first settlers of this great nation. But the Aryan-Dravidian debate in 19th century sidelined their place, role and importance in evolution of what we know today as the idea of India. He is much more relevant in 21st century than the previous one because he had understood the importance of pursuit of excellence in education and knowledge. I congratulate you for establishing this institution in his name because you are creating modern India of his dreams. In his name, we are here, and that is the greatest tribute that MPD can pay. He was pursuing the century for education and knowledge. Dr. Raghunath, who came from the ground, absolutely fighting up the Director General of CSIR, he gives the message that this century is India's century. He has the vision for future which is absolutely consistent with the message of Dr. Ambedkar. So, let me turn to the second part. How relevant is his message for science, technology and this current age? The heart of the Constitution here, we know, is very important. He made one statement as a great political and economic thinker. I quote, "He who is not a slave of circumstances and is always ready and striving to change them in his favor, I call him free. One who is not a slave of usage, customs, of meaningless rituals and ceremonies, of superstitions and traditions, whose flame of reason has not been extinguished, I call him a free man." Baba Sahib Ambedkar took a lot of time to think before conversion. Many people do not understand. He made an absolutely studious research and then he decided, because he clearly understood that Buddhism gives you a complete freedom of pursuing your own goals. He had clear views on natural resources management and development. He helped to shape the water policy of the country. Well-known scholar on his work, former chairman of University Grants Commission, Professor Sukhdev Thorat wrote, I quote, "Since 1930, emphasis has been increasingly placed on engineering practices, on the hydrological unity of a river basin, or treating the basin as the unit of development of its water resources. Credit for multi-purpose project, irrigation and generating electric power together goes to Irrigation and Power Department under leadership of Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Keeping in view the enhanced magnitude of such projects, it was keenly felt that the technical expert bodies available then at the center weren't adequate." I am talking about when he was Minister in Central Council in 1940s. Dr. Ambedkar approved the Central Waterway and Irrigation Commission in March 1944. Actually, that was basically the seed of the organized public sector post-development. We don't realize it now. Thus, Dr. Ambedkar has built grid system, which we know in India now came out of Baba Sahib vision, the power grid, southern grid, northern grid, western grid from which Goa gets power supply. All this has come out of Baba Sahib Ambedkar's vision. Of great significance but less well known among Dr. Ambedkar's contribution to the nation was his direct participation in the formulation of objective and strategy of post-war economic plan and planned development of water and electrical power resources in the country. Dr. Ambedkar was directly involved in framing of the objective and strategy of economic planning and water and electricity power policy as cabinet member in charge of labor, irrigation and power portfolio during 1942 to 46. So, how our country can forget this contribution from Dr. Ambedkar to modernize India's infrastructure? Very little has been written or said about Ambedkar's thoughts on science, technology or environmental conservation. But that is actually the essence of the powerful stream of rationality which flows throughout his works, compiled and published by the Government of Maharashtra in 22 volumes. I will give an example of his foresight, scientific and technical bent of mind. In November 1949, in his last address before the Constituent Assembly, Dr. Ambedkar asked, "What does social democracy mean?" And he gave the reply. It's a very important reply. Those who are students may very carefully listen to what Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar said in answering his question before the Constituent Assembly. The question was, what does social democracy mean? सामाजिक लोकशाहीचा अर्थ काय? सामाजिक लोकशाही की व्याख्या करें. बाबा साहेब आंबेडकर ने ये जवाब दिया. I quote, "It means a way of life which recognizes liberty, equality and fraternity as the principles of life. These principles of liberty, equality and fraternity are not to be treated as separate items in a trinity. They form a union of trinity in the sense that to diverse one from the other is to defeat the very purpose of democracy. Without equality, liberty would produce the supremacy of the few over the many. Equality without liberty would kill individual initiative. Without fraternity, liberty and equality would not become a natural course of things." Dr. Ambedkar looked at the unjust Indian social system from a scientific angle, and that is what made him convert to Buddhism, which champions spirit of rationality and open inquiry. Because if you read Buddhism and Buddha's thoughts, you will see that Buddha has said, don't believe anything because I am saying it. Don't believe anything that because I am Gautam Buddha is saying it, you have right to reject me. No founder of religion has these guts to say you reject me. Because Buddhism went beyond dogma. That's why many foreign Hollywood actors, actresses, sportsmen, they are all going to Dalai Lama and seeking his advice. Because it frees the mind, it relieves you of all the stresses. And that was his vision. He actually used Buddhism not because he was very much fond of religion, but he thought, here is the power of liberating millions and millions of Dalits from the shackles of bondage in my country. And he has given that freedom today to every citizen. So, by remembering Dr. Ambedkar's unforgettable contribution on his 126th birthday, we also recognize the concerns which had expressed decades ago. I quote and end my speech. Untouchability has ruined the untouchables, the Hindus, and ultimately the nation as well. If the depressed classes gain their self-respect and freedom, they would contribute not only to their progress and prosperity, but also by their industry, intellect and courage, would contribute also to the strength and prosperity of the nation, which is happening right from sports, science, technology, education, research. Every area you will find today large number of Dalits taking ahead the work, the vision and the mission of Bhimrao Ambedkar. Please give a big hand for the